So the title of my live this week is How to Be a Millionaire Without Playing the Lottery. Now, that may sound like, clickbait, whatever, but it's not. It's actually a tactic that I'm using this week to show you guys how important it is to know where you are, so that way you can develop a roadmap to get where you want to be, right? Because who doesn't want to be a millionaire? I'm pretty sure we all do. Or at least if we don't, we'd like to have more money than we currently do. So just a couple of things I want to kind of talk about a little bit, and then I'm going to get into the stages of where you might be at in your financial journey, because you're going to be in one of these categories. And so I don't know if it'll let me poll you guys now or how that whole poll thing works. I was trying to figure Facebook out. But I'd love to know after we're done, as we're going through it, if this is you, if this is your stage or whatever, because I really like to know what stage you guys are at. Okay. So also, if you guys could share this, invite people, whatever, that's great. All right. So something I saw yesterday that I thought was pretty interesting. It says, we inadvertently hurt ourselves by focusing on short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term pleasure. Okay. So with anything we do, finances, work, weight loss, you name it, we want to give into the short-term pleasures. For me, it's weight loss, right? So I'll talk about my own thing. So I have this goal that I would love to give up sugar. I would love to lose weight. Like, I have all these goals, but the pleasure of the short-term taste of the food and the short-term pain of maybe working out did kind of derail me, right? And so where I'm bad in that area, you guys may be bad in finance. And so for your case, it may be something like you really want to have a better life or a better, what's the word? I'm sorry, guys, brain fart. You really want to have like a better financial situation, but the short-term goal of maybe, or the short term of maybe wanting like a soda, or I want to buy a new car, I want a new iPhone, or I want an Apple Watch, or I want to give my kids this, or whatever it may be. It's short-term pleasure, right? And you're just trading it out for long-term pleasure, because it's going to take you away from getting what you want in the long term. So I thought that was really interesting thought behind things like that. Another thing that I saw that I wrote down is our motivation to start any task depends on us seeing the value in it. We place more value on what is currently happening because we are emotionally detached from our future selves. When I read that, I was like, holy shit, that is so true. Because again, back to weight loss for me, and maybe finance for you guys, I'm not attached to the future Rochelle, right? So like the future Rochelle for me doesn't, I can't see her, I can't visualize her. So it's harder for me to really like focus on that and see where she's at and what she needs. And so, so maybe that's the same for you guys. Maybe you guys just can't see your future selves and how you would act in your lives if you had better finances. And so maybe by writing a letter to our future selves or imagining our future selves, that we could better visualize it, and maybe that would help us. So I'm going to try that exercise myself, and just kind of see where it gets me. And but that just kind of blew my mind. Like, we place more value on what is currently happening than, because we're emotionally detached from our future selves. Like, think about that for a second. Like, that's super, super powerful, right? So you, where you're at now, could never imagine. I mean, you might be like, oh, I'd buy this with $1 million, I'd buy this with $1 million. But no, really, like, what would life be like if you had $1 million, right? Would you be different? Would you make different money choices? Would you, do things differently? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. You probably would, because you would have developed those habits that millionaires have. So I don't know if you've been listening to my daily finance facts, but 2 things that I learned this week that I shared was this. 1, 80% of millionaires drive used cars. So think about that for a second. How many regular Joes, me, you guys, yourself, how many people like when they go to get a new car because theirs is broke, thinking, oh, I want to get a used car. Not very many. Most people want the new because it's, they don't have to do as much upkeep on it and they don't have to do as much things. The thing that's different though, millionaires understand value of things, right? And so when you buy new, the value of the car drops substantially once you drive it off the lot. And so you're immediately underwater when you leave the lot. And so millionaires know this, right? So when they buy cars, and I'm not talking like highly general millionaires, like people who are just like have been rich and their family had money. I'm talking like the self-made people, like the Warren Buffetts, the more business-minded millionaires. Those types of people, they buy used cars. And you can buy a nice used car, but they still buy used cars. Even Dave Ramsey buys his cars, used and pays cash for them, and they're nicer, but they're used because they understand the value of things. So that was real interesting to me. So let's see what else. I looked up a few different little just sayings and stuff and kind of like talked about it. So we're talking about getting started, right? And the power of motion, the power of moving. So I want to say this one last thing, and then we're going to get started and talk about the stages and how to move forward depending on what stage you're in. Okay. So everyone you've ever met has failed at something. The difference is that successful people choose to start anyway. So I know that one of my clients is having a real tough time because she just feels stuck and she just feels like they're not making any leeway and she doesn't know how to change their behaviors and things like that. And honestly, it's just because they're not putting value on that right now, right? So later on, they'll put value on it when they need to. Fantastic. Right now, they're just not in that place to where it's really important to them. So maybe getting your money together maybe not seem like the most important thing that you need to work on right now. Maybe you have some other things that you need to work on. And that's totally fine. But you definitely want to just start, right? Because I can promise you life is going to be a lot easier if you get your finances together. It really is. Like emergencies become non-emergencies. It's just easier. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to tell you guys how to become a millionaire without playing the lottery. That was my second fact that I learned this week. So, and I shared this over the weekend with people that were over for dinner from the Real Treat event that I went to this weekend, which was amazing. But here is a fact that I learned that I thought was pretty interesting. So there are currently 200,000 401k millionaires. That means people have $1 million saved for retirement, and their net worth, things like that, millionaires, right? 200,000 as of last, I think, August. However, the lottery has only awarded 3,000 people $1 million or more since its inception in 1994. So when you see all of these massive amounts of people going to play the lottery, right, and like win big, and we know our chances are low, but we just might hit it lucky. Remember next time that there are 200,000 people who have invested their money and made smart money decisions who are now millionaires versus 3,000 people who have dropped $1 or more and won $1 million. With those kinds of statistics, I would definitely invest money before I play the lottery because I'm more likely to become a millionaire by investing than I am by playing the lottery. So just a little food for thought for you guys next time you think about, grabbing, a pick four or whatever they're called, a Powerball. I don't know. But anyway, just a little thought for that. Hopefully you guys are doing well. All right, so let's get started. Give me 1 second. I just need to pull something up real quick. So let me ask you this question. Before I go through it, I'm going to tell you the stages, and I want you guys to tell me where you think you are, and then we'll go through them, and then you guys can tell me where you actually are. Okay, so are you, and please comment if you're watching, even if you're watching the replay, I'd love to figure out where you're at. Okay, so here are the stages. Are you somebody who needs to be on a budget? Is that where you're at? You don't have a budget, you're starting. Are you somebody who needs more income? Are you somebody who needs to get out of debt? Is that where you're starting at? Are you somebody who is out of debt but needs to save money? Are you somebody who is dealing with large purchases, like your kids going to college, you've got all the other stuff going to do, but maybe you're ready to buy a house, or your kids are going to college, or some big purchase is keeping you from really moving forward in your financial journey. Or are you through all that and you are 100% ready to invest some money and become a millionaire? Let me know in the comments if you wouldn't mind. We know you guys sometimes just like to watch, but I would love if you guys could participate with me. And if you are watching now, please comment where you think you are. Don't be afraid. We all love each other here. Budgeting very well, but working in debt pay down. Yes, Erica, I would agree that that is where you are, only because I know your situation perfectly. But anybody else, if you're watching this replay, go ahead and type that in now too. And I'm just going to pull up my notes for today, so I don't lose my train of thought and forget what I want to talk about. So one second. So here, while I'm doing this, it is snowing here today. This week has been insane. We went from 70-degree weather on last Monday to this Monday. It's now snowing. So we've had about 4 seasons in 1 week, which is insane. But that's what Tennessee weather is like, which, fun, right? Anyway, so hopefully it's snowing. All right, so Samantha says, still have some big upcoming things, but definitely ready to invest. All right, awesome. I love that, Samantha. I have some, I've been listening to some podcasts about investing lately, because Adam handles all of our investing and where we're at there. But just a little fun fact that I think we're going to write up for you guys in a future post about income. We are now at a stage where we are making as much per year in investments as we do at Adam's job. And so that's a pretty big milestone for us. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, we don't have any property. We do a little pure lending, things like that. But most of that's just like our investments that we've grown over the years. So that's pretty exciting to know that we are now replacing our active income with passive income at that large of an amount, which is, it's pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, like that was pretty exciting when he told me that. So just a little insight into where we're at currently right now with our stages. So we are in the actively investing, working towards our million right now. So sorry, all right. Here we go. Just one more second, guys. My computer's just been a little slow, so thank you for bearing with me. If you're just joining us, we're talking about starting where you're at and working your way forward. All right, so we need to figure out where everybody is, right? So we already talked about the stages. You're either budgeting, working on you need income, you need to save, you need to pay off debt, or you have some large purchases, or you're ready for investing. So you are in the budget category if you are not currently on a budget, okay? If you're not on a budget, you're throwing away money. I know that sounds crazy and maybe outlandish, but it's completely true. I was not on a budget for a very long time. And even when we were financially good, there was times where we didn't really stick with our budget really well. And you can see where you're throwing the money away once you're on the budget. So there's tons and tons of ways you can budget. You can Google that. I suggest if your goal is to work towards retirement or being a millionaire or whatever it is, you definitely want to follow a $0 budget. But do what's right for you. So you're definitely in need of a budget if you're not on one. And that's the very first step for anything that you do financially. It's going to be being on a budget. And I've said it before, and I'll say it 20 million times again. Budgeting is the most important and very first step you have to take to get to be a millionaire, to do pretty much anything financially in your life the right way. Budgets are nothing if not statements of your priorities. And that's pretty much it, right? So they're going to tell you what's most important to you is your budget. So The next area is, okay, so let's talk a little more about budgeting. All right, so the $0 budgeting, it's every dollar in the $0 budgeting module, every dollar has a job, and this helps you to see where everything's going, and it actually lets you free up money for things that are important to you. If you're not really sure like how to budget and you're like, I would love to budget, but I don't know where to start, look at recommended budgeting percentages. I'll actually be posting a blog tomorrow about all of this stuff, and I'll have some in there for you that you can look up. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be on our website as of probably tomorrow morning. Hopefully, I want to have it up. All right, so that's budgeting. Now, part 2, income problem. Okay, here's how you know if you have an income problem. You fall into this category if you're using a $0 budget and you do not make enough money to cover your needs. Okay, if you are in that position, there is not a lot that you can do to get out of it. You have pretty much 4 options. Go back to school, get a second job, start a side hustle, or move somewhere cheaper. And that's it. Because sometimes it's not the size of the hole, it's the size of the shovel. And if that makes sense to you, then great. If not, let me explain a little bit. Sometimes it's not how much debt you have. It's not how much money you have going out. It's how much money you have coming in. Now, again, I will say it's an income problem, not if you can't like pay credit card bills or if you can't like go out to dinner, you can't take vacations. That's not necessarily income problem. That's probably a budget problem. Income problem is I work and I cannot pay my electric bill. I cannot pay my gas bill. I cannot pay for groceries for my family. That you have an income problem, and you're going to have to, if you're ever going to want to get out of your financial situation that you're in, you've just got to make more money. And unfortunately, there's no magic pill to that. It just takes hard work and time. And so if that's you, my heart goes out to you. I will give you as much advice as I can, but until you work on getting a bigger shovel, there's not a whole lot you can do. There is a podcast I was sent, and I will link it in the group this week, about how somebody working at Walmart became a millionaire. Somebody shared that with me, and so I want to share that with you guys. So I will make sure to share that Wednesday when we share our book and our podcast for the week. Okay, the next place is I have a savings problem. So you know you have a savings problem. If it's not an income or budget problem, you're going to look at your savings. If you have unexpected things come up, like home repairs, car repairs, surprise medical bills, things like that, and you have to put those on credit cards, you have a savings problem, okay? If you're putting Christmas on a credit card, you have a savings problem. If you're putting birthdays on a credit card, you have a savings problem. Now, I'm not saying that if you're doing it the way we do it, where you put everything on a credit card, you pay it off the same week, that's not a savings problem. That's just, you know, leveraging your credit, which is fine. But if you're not somebody who pays their credit card bills before interest rates hit and you're losing money, then you definitely have a savings problem, because these are things that you should not have to put on credit cards because they're emergencies. These are things that you should be able to work with your emergency fund or sinking funds to pay. So for example, Christmas would be a sinking fund. Medical could be a sinking fund, but big house repairs, things like that, if you don't have a sinking fund for that, that's where you want to do your emergency fund. Now, your emergency fund, to begin with, should at least be $500 to $1,000 based on your income. That's the minimum that it should be. If you've got that and you need to start saving more, depending on how much risk you have in your life, how much you're dependent on your job, you know, how much your mortgage is, how much your bills are, things like that, how much debt you have, you want to go anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Super aggressive, you're going to want to have about a year's worth of expenses saved, and that's a really aggressive. That'll get you through, you know, quite a hard time. But so that's how you kind of can tell if you have a savings problem and then you need to start building your savings, and that maybe, you know, things are getting there for you. And that big emergency fund, Samantha, can probably help you because you have big upcoming things. Having a large emergency fund can help with those things and help you kind of, or sinking funds even, just large ones can help you save for those things and still be able to invest. All right, debt problem. So this is the most obvious category. Most people do know when they are in debt. However, just how much debt you're in might surprise you. It's a really important number to know. So I highly suggest going to get your once a year credit report. And again, all this stuff will be in the blog tomorrow. So make sure to check that out. And it's freeannualcreditreport.com. And then sit down and write out your credit card statements and get an idea of what you owe. And then put it into a list. And then you can figure out if you want to do the snowball method or the avalanche method. Again, I'm going to link all that in the thing so you can read more about those tomorrow. But just to give you a gist of things, the snowball method is where you pay things off from the lowest amount owed to the highest amount owed. And the avalanche method is where you pay things off based on interest rate. So whatever has the highest interest rate is the one you would pay off first, and then you would go so on and so forth with your interest rates. They each have their ups and downs. They each have their positive, negatives, and which one you choose is really dependent on your personal situation. So I will have things linked to both of those so you can read more about them and find out which one's the best option for your family. So if none of those are you and you're in the I have a lot of large purchases coming up, Samantha, this area really isn't a problem. It just means that you're in a position to buy a car, a house, or another large item, and or maybe it's like time for your kids to go to college, right? These are all great things. Obviously, the earlier we can plan for these things, the better off we're going to be. But I do want to give you guys a few resources to help yourselves, okay? If this is you. Now, if buying a car is your thing, like we talked about, 80% of millionaires drive used cars. Look into used cars. There are some really great sites out there now that will give you what price you have is like the best for your area. I think truecar.com is amazing for that. You know, you can still buy at dealerships. You can still get really good deals. I have not bought a new car in my life. My mom gave me a new car when I was 16. Really dumb mistake. What 16-year-old can afford payment on a brand new car? I know I couldn't. And that was one of the first times I ever defaulted on anything. Luckily for me, it wasn't in my name. You know, it's lessons learned, and I've not bought a used car or new car since then. My dad always told me never buy new, always buy used. His reason was because, you know, he didn't want to work on them. Like, he could work on old cars, but look at used cars. That's going to save you a lot of money in the long run, and you won't have to go back into debt for those, right? And so you may spend like $3,000 to $5,000 on a used car. It may last you 3 to 5 years, maybe a little less, but it's going to be way cheaper than spending $60,000 and paying out on it for 5 years, and your car only lasts you 10. Like, you're going to get a better deal buying 2 used cars versus 1 brand new car. You just are. So look into that and think about that more. Your housing solution. So if you're working on buying a house, obviously the housing costs are going to vary depending on where you live. So if you live in a super expensive place, I would just consider renting while you invest, because depending on, there's a lot of Reddit things for FIRE, just like financial independence, retire early. Then they will talk about how they would rather rent and leverage the market because their return is better than in the housing market. So in housing, you might get 4% return on your investment, but in investments, you're going to get like 8, 10, 12, whatever it is. And so if you're young and you live in an expensive place, it's probably a better idea for you to rent and then invest money in the market, and you're going to get better returns that way. But another way, if that's not the case for you, is to pay off your house as quickly as possible. So that's what we did. We paid our house off in about 5.5 years, and we did that by putting every single extra penny we earned towards our house. Now, again, you can't do this if you're in any of these stages below this, right? So if you're in, I'm not on a budget phase, I do not suggest you pay off your house that fast. If you are in the I need more income, again, don't suggest you start working on paying off your house. If you are in I have debt, not time for you to worry about paying off your house, right? If you don't have savings, again, not time for you to worry about paying off your house. This is only if you are at this stage, right? Because figuring out where we're starting from is going to give us the best chance to get where we're going. Because if we're starting from somewhere that we're not actually at, we're going to do ourselves more harm than good. Okay. Sorry guys, Facebook is being, I just updated to a new Facebook version. It's weirding me out right now. So anyway, so we put all our money towards that. And now we pay about $230 a month in taxes to live in our home. We don't pay any mortgage fees. We don't pay any mortgage, nothing like that. So we can't find a place cheaper. There's nobody that rents places for $230 unless you're trying to live with like 10 people, you know, and have like a shithole. Like it's just not, at least in our area, maybe your area, you do have, I don't know anywhere in America that does have rent that cheap. But if you're in that situation, great, take advantage of it for as long as you can, for sure. But most places you're not living for that cheap. So that's good. Now, college. If your kids are getting ready to go to college and you're worried and you really want to help them and you realize that you haven't been saving, but you want to, but they're getting ready to leave, because we have like a 15-year-old who's like goes to college in 2 years. Like we've saved for her a little bit, but not a whole bunch. So we've had to look at other opportunities for her to help. Okay. So here's a few things that you can do with your kids. So first thing is set expectations. Okay. Let your child know how much you're going to be able to contribute. All right. You need to figure that number out before you have that conversation with them. And that's a hard choice. You're just going to have to think about yourself, because, you know, it's going to depend on a lot of things, like how much can you afford? Basically, that's what you need to go on. You should have no debt. You should have savings before you do this stuff, right? Option 2 is think small. So most states offer free tuition for the first 2 years via community college. And this, it may not be where your kids want to go, but it's the perfect place for them to go if everybody's got prerequisites. They got to do in college, right? You can get those out of the way for free in most states. So definitely check with your child's guidance counselor to see if that's an option in your state. And just get your kids to start now, let them know like, hey, we're not going to a big school. If you want to have a great education, you want help with it, this is how we need you to do it so we can afford to do it and not kill ourselves, right? Look for options. So depending on your child, there are likely scholarships they can get. There's so many out there. Your child's job, like as a junior, I think, should be like full-time, like part-time job looking for scholarships. There are so many out there. You just have to look for them and apply. And it takes a lot, but if you're getting like rewards, that can help like a ton to pay for college. Because what we don't want them to do is get loans, right? We don't want that. Now that is an option, and we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, tell them to get to work, right? So all else fails, they can go get a job and start saving for college. They can do work study programs once they start college. These are some ways that they can help them pay for school. And then the last thing I'll say is loans. There are loans out there, and that's the last option I will absolutely suggest. I don't think you need to have student loans. There's way too many ways that you can go to college for free. The military, like whatever. But if you need to have student loans, you know, it needs to happen. But let your kids take on these loans themselves, okay? Because here's one thing to remember. There are loans to go to school. There are loans to buy a house. There are loans to buy a car. Nobody is giving you any loans for retirement. Nobody is giving you any loans. You know, Social Security is not a loan. You won't have much for that, to retire and to take care of yourself when you're older. So by setting your expectations for your kids, you are actively making sure that you're not going to be a burden on them later. So just some food for thought there. Now, if you're through all those phases and you feel like none of those are me, then congratulations, you are ready to invest. I don't know what much we can do for you guys. Now I would definitely suggest that you seek out the guidance from a financial advisor, and they can give you like the best way forward. And full disclosure, you might be dealing with the last 3 phases at the same time. That's what we're doing now, or not. Yeah, we've had like all of these phases. Like we're working to save for a car, we're working to save for kids' college. We are investing, and so all of these things can happen at the same time. So Samantha, again, you had said you had some big upcoming things, but ready to invest. do them at the same time. Figure out your budget and figure out how to allocate your money to where you can do this at the same time. So I hope that was helpful to you guys. After listening to it, I would love to see where you think where you're at now. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to dive, like I said, more into each topic, and we're going to discuss them in detail. Next week, we're talking about budgeting, and so you definitely don't want to miss that. We're going to go all into budgeting. I'm going to show you guys how we do it, how to do a $0 budget. I'm going to share our budgeting spreadsheet with you guys in the blog next week, so that's going to be fun. The rest of this week, it's all going to be about starting where you're at. We're going to do the same thing kind of we did last week. We hope we're serving you guys with our new content ideas and all these things. Again, I've been doing the finance fact of the day. I haven't done it yet, so I need to do it today. But if you can think of anything that would serve you or that would help you that we can do, please let us know. We are really working hard to make sure we're providing the most quality content for you guys, and that you guys are learning and getting as much as you can from it. And so we really just want to be able to give to you guys and help you, better whatever situation you're in. So again, if you like what we're doing and, you feel value in it, let us know. Like, we don't know unless you tell us. Invite your friends. We've had several people, join the group this week. We're super grateful for that. If you haven't already, go check out our website. We've got our 30-day budget challenge you can sign up for. January is early in the year, is a great time to do that. It's just an email that comes right to your email inbox. I'm not going to send you 20 emails. It's one email that's got the whole challenge in there. You can take our course, The Journey into Finance. I know several of you have just went through that or saw that. If you have not seen that in another group, then go see that. It's just us chatting with some slides. We post a blog once a week on there about what we've been talking about. Go read it. Let us know how we're doing. Again, we can only grow as much as people enjoy us. And so thank you so much for helping us do that and keeping up with us. And, again, I just hope we're able to serve you guys and that you guys are getting something from it. So I hope everyone has a great week. We will talk to you guys next week. Again, next week's topic is all about budgeting. So tell your friends, invite them. If you know somebody who needs to budget, get them in here so they don't miss next week's live. Talk to y'all later, guys. Good night.